Thanks to LaborFirst for sponsoring today's episode of Better Bad Ideas. Now let's get into it.
I'm Shawn O'Brien, General President of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters.
Put your helmets on, buckle your chin straps. It's a full contact sport.
We're going to find out who has a better bad idea. 2020, cannabis industry worth $10 billion. Today, 2025, estimated to be at about $45 billion with a B. And as General President of the Teamsters Union, we have had a strong push to organize in the cannabis industry. When we took over, we created a cannabis division solely focused on organizing the cannabis industry. There's 440 W-2 direct employees working everything from cultivation, processing, shipping, receiving, and hopefully it will be legalized nationally at some point in time. And currently we've got 24 states that it's legalized in, and I think there's many more in the queue to legalize it state by state. Today we have Shawn McCarron, who works in the cannabis industry. Looks like he used a lot of cannabis back in the day. And Jay McAuliffe, who has been advocating about the cannabis industry probably since 1993, directly working for the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, not only organizing in the cannabis industry, but also fostering relationships for hopefully help aiding and financing the relationships where we believe there's going to be a consolidation industry. So tell us what your background is, Jay, and what you're doing for the cannabis industry.
Well, first and foremost, I'd just like to say thank you for having me on and having the balls to put forward this high-level strategic plan that you've set forward for organizing and stabilizing this cannabis space. Not everybody looks at cannabis as a therapeutic or a medical solution to some real health issues. They look at it as just a drug or dope, and that it's just not the case. It's an extremely valuable plant-based therapeutic. And where I started in this space, I guess it goes multi-generationally. My father was involved in it, and my mother.
Trafficking?
Yeah, my father was a bootlegger, like nothing big, but I mean, it was the 60s and 70s, and that's probably the first time I saw like a good-sized bag of weed, you know? And it was always just around our family. My grandmother, unfortunately, cancer runs deep in the family, and she used it, but she didn't smoke it. She drank it. Through chemo, it helped with it's called asphyxiation.
What year was this? Your grandmother.
This was 1986.
So in the 80s, people are utilizing marijuana to treat cancer. But was it prescribed, or was it just something that it was off the street?
No, just my father actually. My father would bring it home and stew it down and make a tea for her, and it was just a natural therapeutic for her. You know, my mother, triple cancer survivor. She uses it also. She started getting cancer in the mid 90s. And my grandfather, who we lived with, he grew it for her. She beat that cancer, and the plant's always been a patch in our yard, right? It's always been like a vegetable or an herb. It was never a drug to me, and I hyper consumed it when I was a kid. I don't know if it was a great thing.
Yeah, but you had no medical issues.
I didn't. I did it strictly
glaucoma.
I did it strictly for thrill, I guess you'd say. But as I started like getting older and really looking at it. It's kind of the way we survived. Like we would hustle it. You know what I mean? In the early 90s, like that's what we did. We you get it, you grab an ounce and roll up a couple of bones and hook up with your friends, and that was it. I don't know where I really started to fall in love with the plant, because I do love the plant, not only for how I feel.
You know, we drug test at work, right?
That's okay. I test positive. I like cannabis. I don't do any hard drugs. I don't do anything synthetic. I'm a very natural person when it comes.
So here at Better Bad Ideas, we also do confessions.
Yeah.
So that's what we're in right now.
Yeah,
But think about in the 80s, 90s, 2000s. You had guys that were selling just marijuana on the street.
Yeah.
Right? Trafficking it, whatever. I'm not a drug user at all, never smoked pot, never did it. I always say, like, I love it. That's why I never did it. But you look at it now where it's pretty liberal, right? Where, these states are it's legal in 24 states, in the United States, right? And you got people that were trafficking it, selling it. Some got 40-year sentences in prison. Some got life sentences. Some are still in prison and, selling cocaine, cooking meth, all that stuff's a lot different than the cannabis. Who would have thought right now that 24 states, it's legal, and we still have people in jail doing 20, 30 years. And I know there's a big push nationwide. There's a bunch of advocacy groups that we've dealt with where, they're trying to get these folks pardoned or get them relief for their sentences because they weren't doing any other crimes but this. Now, fast forward to where we are today. It's not just medically right now, because I think the stats say that, marijuana is consumed by like 48% of the population. And 48% of that, the medical only makes up about 15%. Now, think about what you talked about earlier, your grandmother, your mother having cancer. They did it so they could eat, right? They wouldn't fade away to nothing because, I guess marijuana, and you guys know better than I would, makes you want to eat and consume food. So, are we gonna create another problem here in the United States where it's legal and people are just going to be eating? You can throw the Ozempic out at that point in time, right?
You could sell it right in the dispensary with it.
What, like
Ozempic.
Do a 2-for-1? Yeah, I don't know about that. You could sell cannolis.
Well, the edible, the edible market is a giant part of this industry.
Yeah, so what do they come in? They sell them retail in edibles, pre-rolled cigarettes, and then this cannabis-infused drinks.
Beverages,
tinctures,
edibles.
a lot of concentrates, very, very popular. Small dab of wax, one hit, you're done. Instead of sitting there smoking out the whole room with like 6 or 7, hits or bong hits or something like that, you can literally take one dab of this, concentrated wax oil, the shatter, whatever you want to call it, take a dab and you're pretty damn
but you're impaired though at that point in time.
Oh yeah.
You shouldn't get in a car and drive it. You can't drive a commercial vehicle with it. The recreational use is probably the most popular, right?
Absolutely.
Can I touch on one thing you said before you get down the use? What you said, like creating a problem or getting to the extreme where you actually have an issue with the consumption. I think that is actually one of the greatest things that we can solve is actually a safe consumption and safe product campaign. Like one of the biggest problems in this industry is contaminated products, right? That's number one. And if you have a regulatory structure and a labor structure that's driving safety standards and keeping a safe product, age-gated products, so kids aren't getting these high-test drugs or these traditional market or regular market drugs, I think it's one of the greatest things that we could facilitate.
But isn't it the gateway drug?
I don't know about that. It never gate-weighted for me.
Never opened any other gates for me.
Right. But think about it. Like we grew up, our neighborhoods we grew up.
Yeah.
You see a kid or someone in your neighborhood, they start smoking weed at 12 or 13.
I did.
That same kid, starts snorting cocaine. That same kid starts popping pills. So it's a progression. You just don't wake up one morning and go, fuck, you know what? I want to shoot heroin today.
Well, I mean, look at the Sackler family or the Purdue pharmaceutical game. I mean, none of those kids that had those pills when they were dumped all over our country, they weren't saying, "Hey, I'm going to start nibbling these things and decimate our entire civilization." And that wasn't even a natural product. That was a synthetic product given to us by our country. I mean, I would never look at cannabis as a gateway drug. I'd look at it as a therapeutic, and I think the gateway to those kids that went from smoking the grass to the coke to whatever they do and die.
Yeah, but you would agree. No one wakes up at 12 or 13 and go, I'm gonna shoot heroin.
No.
It's a progression.
It is a progression.
So you're progressively starting from probably sneaking a couple of your dad's beers out of his fridge. Yeah. And then you get in with a crowd, maybe a little bit older crowd than you. They say, hey, try this. It's marijuana. And then the introduction stuff from there.
Yeah, well, that's what happened with us. They locked us in a bathroom, the older kids, and just started blowing weed in the bathroom at like 11 years old, right?
So the debate of legalization state by state, I know it's like they put a lot of these guardrails when they pass this legislation as far as, you have to have treatment facilities, addiction management, and all that stuff. So, I mean, if it wasn't a gateway or an addictive drug, why would we have to regulate it, mandate in a lot of these states that they have these programs in the event someone does get addicted? It's no different than when you're talking about gambling legislation, and we deal with the same thing all over the country, where a lot of states are legalizing gambling. Massachusetts obviously has 3 casinos, and when they start these boards and commissions to regulate it, there's always a allocation of money for programs in the event there's addiction. So, I mean, I don't know enough about it because I've never done it, but I look at it like it's a progression and a stepping stone. So you're always going to have this debate. Yeah, we get the medical value that it brings, especially with cancer patients, and the mental health issue. Like, I know a friend of mine worked in retail, retired state trooper. It's funny how I know a bunch of guys that work narcotics their whole life, arresting drug dealers and everything else. And, some of them go to work for these cannabis companies. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, talk about hypocrisy, whatever it is.
Bill's going to get paid.
Yeah.
It's the end of the day.
But no, you know what I mean? It's just like, I don't know enough about it, but I know one thing. It's an industry that's growing. It's an industry that has tremendous wealth generated as a result of it, and it employs 440,000 W-2 employees nationwide. And so what does that mean for the Teamsters Union? In my eyes, it means it's a non-traditional industry where, I think the value that we bring to the industry is kind of twofold, and we've talked about this a lot. It's one, whenever you have a union representing an industry, you can guarantee stability in your workforce because you're going to be negotiating.
Preach it every day.
You're going to be negotiating collective bargaining agreements. You're going to be providing benefits as a result of the collective bargaining agreement, and that's a value to employers because of the continuity of the workforce. So I look at it as we have an ability, and I think we've got 24 collective bargaining agreements under the program that we all built and that we have been executing all along. And you're developing not only a job, but a career path for a lot of people.
Indeed. And it's what the educational purpose of what we do is to let people know that. People are shocked. They don't even understand that they have that opportunity right there. I say, like, you don't like how it's going? Let's improve it for you. We can work together. We'll work together. And we go out and we work with the local unions all around the country, and we encourage the same thing. We say, like, you have a lot of opportunity here. You have a lot of people in this region, this area. So, let's get these people together and just talk to them about exactly what we can offer them and what they can offer us as members as well. Yeah.
Well, I think the audience we're playing to right now is the millennials and the Generation Zs. They are deep rooted. I think they are probably the largest consumers of cannabis, according to what I've read over the last several weeks preparing for this. And those are going to be the face of the workforce, right? And a lot of those folks have no generational connection to unions. A lot of them go to work, quite frankly, in a lot of these places because they get to sample the product.
They do.
Now think about sampling the product.
Sample a discount.
Sample it and get the discount. And look, whatever else, I'm sure they
want it in.
Like in the liquor industry, we call it breakage.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I think you've seen the same progression as liquor. Right, like in the 1920s and 30s, that was the poison. That was the gateway, right? And now it's fully everybody. I mean, you're seeing a decline in alcohol consumption right now. That's why you're seeing a little conflict between alcohol and cannabis. But in the end, it's the same progression, right? It's a new intoxicant that the government's trying to regulate and control, and it'll get there, and it's just going to take us,
that's
50
the problem.
or 60 years.
That's the problem right now when you think about it. It's a Schedule I narcotic.
It's a problem.
Right? So it's a problem federally. Talk about being a Schedule I, because even though it's legal in states, there are some shortfalls right now as far as managing and running, whether it's you're cultivating it, whether you're storing it, warehousing it. and selling it retail. There's a lot of constrictions around a Schedule I narcotic, and I'm sure you're very familiar with it. So what are some of the shortfalls as far as not being legalized nationwide?
I mean, I think personally, interstate travel is something that we might have a little bit of knowledge about in the Teamsters. Warehousing, just the logistics alone, I mean, are a huge factor.
Well, you got regulatory challenges, right?
Of course.
And some of those are you
have to have a DEA license to cross state borders.
You can't put your money in a bank.
That's right.
Correct.
So it's a cash business.
The number one issue, just before you guys move on, the number one issue, it shouldn't be on the CSA 1, period. It's not heroin. It's not cocaine. It's not fentanyl. As a matter of fact, alcohol and tobacco are not even scheduled. And 600,000 people die a year of each, and not one person has died from cannabis use. You cannot overdose.
Well, that might not be true, though.
What do you mean?
They might not have died from cannabis use, right?
Yeah.
But they might have been introduced, like we talked about earlier, to cannabis as a gateway drug, and it stepped up their game, so to speak, where they experimented with other things. And listen,
they could have.
I know people that have smoked, thinking they were smoking marijuana. It was laced with fentanyl. They died.
Right.
That's the illicit portion of it. But this is, somewhat regulated if it's legal in the States. But the regulatory challenges are going to be a problem unless we change or legalize marijuana federally. And there's talk it's going to be labeled a Schedule 3. Now, does that help or no?
I think it does help, but I don't think it's the correct solution. Yep. I think it needs to be, it's going to be a stepping stone because, as you know, you introduced me to this DC madness. It's wild down here, and nothing moves that fast up the hill. Right. And you're not just going to go from.
Well, there's other priorities, right?
Right.
So.
Well, I mean, just in the descheduling, Shawn, like from Schedule 1 to 3 to non-scheduled, like they're just not going to say it's descheduled. They're going to go in stepping stones. And Schedule 3 would give some relief to some of these companies under the 280E tax pressures and liabilities so they can actually pay their workers a correct living wage. But in the end, Schedule 3, in my view, is not the correct solution. It puts more stress on the industry. It will not allow some of the social equity applicants or the people that you've set forth this clemency program. You said to me, Jay, we got to get focused on the clemency. These people have to be out of jail, right? There's no reason all these corporations are making money and these people are sitting in a box.
There's more criminals working in corporate America than people that were trafficking marijuana sitting in federal prison, in state prison.
Right. So, when you look at that, it's like, so if it goes to Schedule 3, you have all of these DEA boundaries that step up, right? Like you need a DEA license. You don't just, you need to be GMP certified for your manufacturing and your cultivation.
If it's labeled as Scheduled 3, right? In these states, they were pretty liberal in giving these licenses out in 24 states. And what I've seen, and again, unqualified opinion, it's just, I deal with a multitude of different arenas of corporate, businesses, small businesses, mom and pops, so to speak. And, the one thing that I look at, and again, unqualified opinion, is a lot of these states were pretty liberal in how they gave out these licenses. And I think a lot of these states were focused on,
tax revenue,
not tax revenue necessarily, but providing an opportunity for people to run their own businesses.
Yes.
And there's a lot of people, a lot of good people that got these licenses that don't know how to run a business.
That's a great point.
Don't know the product or the industry, and they're failing miserably. I think we're seeing massive acquisitions and takeovers because, again, we get back to being a Schedule 1 narcotic, right? Mm-hmm. Which that's what they'll call it. You can't file bankruptcy. You have no bankruptcy protection.
Yeah.
So you're at the mercy of, a vulture.
You are.
Corporate America.
You are.
Coming in and saying, hey, we're going to give you like 10 cents on the dollar, or we're going to pay all your debt off. You're not going to get anything.
Right.
But we're going to take this market share of what you have. Have you seen that? Because you talk to a lot of the vultures, right? This episode is brought to you by LaborFirst, the leader in healthcare, navigation, and advocacy for plan sponsors, union members, and retirees. Navigating healthcare isn't easy, especially when it comes to Medicare. and it shouldn't fall on our retirees' shoulders alone. That's where LaborFirst comes in. They work one-on-one with members to help them understand their benefits, resolve issues, and get the care they've earned. From answering tough questions to fixing billing problems, LaborFirst is in your corner every step of the way. No call centers, no runaround, just healthcare advocates who care. LaborFirst was founded by a proud Teamsters son and grandson. For over 60 years, his father and grandfather led Teamsters Local 837, now 107, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, with pride, purpose, and grit. That same union spirit runs through everything LaborFirst does today. Now, hundreds of union health plans trust LaborFirst as a true partner, delivering results, supporting members and retirees, and never forgetting who they work for. When it comes to protecting what members have earned, LaborFirst stands with you. Visit LaborFirst.com to learn more. That's LaborFirst.com. This episode is brought to you by Catches Law Group, proud advocates for injured workers and their families since 1986. If you've been hurt on the job, navigating the workers' comp system can feel like fighting an uphill battle. That's where Catches Law comes in. They've recovered over $30 billion for hardworking people just like you, and they don't back down when your rights are on the line. They know what it means to stand shoulder to shoulder with unions and workers across the country. Because at Catches Law, it's not just about compensation, it's about justice. To learn more, visit catcheslaw.com. That's KECHES law.com. And I've got to tell you, I have worked side by side with Catches Law for over 30 years. I see how proud they represent injured workers. I see how they get the justice that those injured workers and their families deserve. And I know firsthand that if you are injured at work, that Catches Law Group is the law firm that's going to get you justice. Please visit catcheslaw.com. That's KECHES law.com.
I have a great, I was out there and the guy says, oh, we're taking this over. We picked up on the license. And I said, that was a social equity license. They said, the guy doesn't know how to run a business. He just qualified for social equity. He just turned around and flipped the license back to us. And I said, that's not how this should work. How does he do that? And there's loopholes to these things. And I was like, just the whole thing blew my mind.
Well, I think you got to get back to when it's introduced as legislation and all these regulatory agencies like the Cannabis Commission, I'll use Massachusetts, which was in total disarray up and it still is pretty much, right?
One of them resigned yesterday.
Yeah. And, part of that should be if you're going to give these licenses out, there should be some sort of training for these folks that have never run a business and never had, any experience with cannabis. But again, we give these licenses out. We claim victory that we are supporting small businesses. We're giving people opportunities in community. Those same people that needed this opportunity, what's happened is they're being set up to fail.
Yeah, first step they should take when they get that social equity license is go to your local Teamster Union Hall and inquire about that education, right? Because we've been running industry for 120 years. We can provide those some support to those people. Number one, I don't think social equity, I think it's needed. I don't think the states deploy those programs correctly. You can use New York. They were going to raise $200 million and give it to all these social equity applicants. It's like bait.
That's just in the cannabis industry?
Just in the cannabis space, yeah. So they go out and they do a friends and family raise and everybody throws in $2,500. It sinks the whole family. They open up the shop and then you got 5 burner distros across the street and your whole family lost their money and now you're gone.
You get these vultures just standing there watching.
You don't have the structure. You don't have that structure. So
MSOs can slide in and underprice you all day long.
Who can?
The MSOs, multi-state operators, these cannabis companies.
How about the illicit distribution of marijuana? That must drive
it's
profits
twice the
down.
size.
It's twice the size, right?
Yeah, $70 billion.
It drives like you take a city like New York, Boston, major cities, where there's a lot of capital being invested in legitimate cannabis businesses in the industry, and you still have your street corner dealers that are cutting your price by half, which is driving volume to them, which is going to be more profitable for the illicit sale of cannabis. Can you talk about that and what the experience is in your viewpoint?
I sold cannabis for a long time. I never knew where it was coming from fully. You know, you hear the tail of the, you know, the rails, like, oh, it came from here and went to there and then came here. But you don't really know. Who's fact checking that? How do you know? How are you going to track it? We never dealt with tags or testing or mold or yeast or all these different things. That's one thing that's great about regulatory cannabis is the stuff's actually tested.
It's clean product.
It's clean product.
Somewhat.
So still, you want to be on the black market. You don't know where that's really coming from. The funny thing is,
well, you point to the black market is you don't know what you get and you don't know where it's coming from and you don't know who's selling it to you. Right. But you think about when you're a legitimate business and you're an operation and you're regulated, there are checks and balances that cost a lot of money. So you've got to charge X amount of more dollars to make some sort of a profit and or to break even.
Yeah.
And, you know, yeah, it's a cleaner product. But I think if you gave, you know, the millennials or Generation Z who look just to use it recreationally, where do you think they're going to go?
I mean, luckily, because there's so much like genetics out there, hydroponics out there, so much education, YouTube, all these things, these people are growing it right in their houses. You know, they have 6 plants per adult in regulations. Mm-hmm. These people are growing their own. It's like going back to the.
What does it take to grow your own? I mean, I don't. You can tell me.
A nice light, some fresh, some good. For me, I'm a live soil guy, so
living soil.
I like good dirt. And that's about it.
You don't need to be in Southern California or a warm climate to grow it, right?
You could be in the corner of your room in a nice little Mylar tent. They sell kits at every grow store there is. Right in Malden, Medford, you know, areas that I grew up in. You know, I said, like, oh, what's this place? Hydroponics. And everyone's like, oh.
What is hydroponics?
You know, it's basically you're growing the plant in you know, a water system. Literally, the roots are just submerged in a water system. You feed your nutrients through the water. The roots get all the nutrients up through the system. It's wild. I mean, no dirt.
It's an interesting debate on both sides, indoor versus outdoor.
All right, tell us about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, you take a place like Northern California, right? And I'll tell you, to talk about the point you just had with these burner distros and the price compression of cannabis. I've grown a lot of cannabis. I've trimmed a lot of cannabis.
Allegedly.
No, there's pictures floating around somewhere. So I allegedly, right? And back in the 90s, I was on the West Coast and from Mission Beach to Willits, and the prices of cannabis were roughly $4,200 a unit, and it was like gold. It like matched the price of gold. Currently, they're $300 a unit, right? $500 a unit. That price compression doesn't equate to the amount of work that it takes to process that plant. You have that's a major problem. So like when you say like they're going to just set up their shop and grow their business, well, you can't sell a product that's worthless and expect to make money. And not saying that cannabis is worthless. What I'm saying is that the supply and demand is out of whack, and the illicit or the traditional market is a part of that problem, that price compression. We want wages for these workers to go up.
Well, we want wages, we want benefits,
right? So
we want a job to a career path,
right? Long-term career path.
I mean, you think about the liquor industry, which we represent. We represent the majority of liquor distributors across the country. Warehousing to, well, some of them, I mean, we represent breweries.
Yeah.
We represent distilleries.
Yeah, that's the conflict too right now.
Well, it's a conflict, but not a bad problem to have if one is competing with the other. And if everything lines up in a great world and it gets declassified, you know, to your point earlier, less people are going to be consuming alcohol. So a lot of these liquor distributor companies, they have the opportunity because, I mean, look, you can say what you want. Alcohol is probably one of the most regulated industries in the country, right? And it's also, you know, there's a lot of checks and balances for commerce as far as distributing it, right? So
the three-tier system works too.
It's a natural fit for the cannabis industry. So where we might lack, and jobs could be lost as a result of, you know, consumption of alcohol diminishing. You know, we can put that cannabis on those same trucks, and while we're delivering to those liquor stores and those supermarkets, you could be delivering to those dispensaries and wherever else it's sold.
But what brings us to DC is we were here for Ignite It, and the conference was amazing because we got to witness the actual crash of the hemp industry. Yes, the last couple of days, like people's big investments, 17 to 20 year investors, heart, soul, blood, sweat, tears. These people, by something getting squeezed into the end of the bill to reopen the government, all of a sudden,
20
the farmers,
to 17-year lobbyists.
Yeah.
What do they look like? I mean, do they look like hippies from the 60s and 70s?
Some of them do, but like big guys like Joe Bondi from Normal and stuff like that. Those guys are all lawyers. They're corporate guys. I mean, they're definitely.
Well, most people like that, and I don't know these folks, so I'm not speaking out of school. But when you see big corporations involved in anything, they're not in it for the love of the industry.
No,
they're not in it.
We call them Chads.
Yeah, they're not in it for the creating 440,000 jobs. They're in it basically to see what type of investment, what type of return they're going to get on their investment, and how they can make as much money with less people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why we battle.
Well, I'll tell you, it's funny because I was omni-focused on cannabis when we first took this position. Yeah, launched when you first launched this program, and we talked about this a couple of years before you. I think it was genius before you even won that election. And I'm cannabis, and then all of a sudden in our supply chain, we start seeing hemp beverages, right? Where Southern Wine, I don't know if Southern's in, but
Southern, I know Southern in Canada. Southern Glaciers,
yeah,
they're distributing in Canada.
Yeah, they were, and
they're a huge employer for us, nationwide.
Me and him got excited because we said those need to be moved by truck.
Well, that's
we
the
know
goal.
What we're doing.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
So you have for the first couple of years where I'm pro cannabis. Now all of a sudden you see these hemp products get into our supply chain. So I start doing more. A couple of years ago, start doing a little bit more research on hemp and going to each local union and speaking to that leadership and trying to say, hey, these are the products that are coming in the pipeline. This is what's happening. Those products are good for us because they're filling those trucks. If there's a decline in alcohol, right, we want to move cases. Right, we move units.
We want to move pallets.
We move pallets. That's what we do, right? We move units. Right. So 18% of global CPG. This cannabis product is going to be no different than alcohol and wine. We're going to move every gram of this product. Might not be 2025, maybe it's 2050, but we're here to stay, right? Like you said, we have a commitment.
There's a projection that 2030, this is going to be almost $100 billion business,
right?
And that's 5 years from now.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I'm blown away with how fast the last 3 or 4 years have
right,
gone.
But see that growth, right?
Yeah.
That growth doesn't really support all the licenses and all the venues, right? So even though it's making record profits, right? I mean, it's growing real fast. I think we're going to see a massive consolidation in the industry. You think about
you will.
I look at it this way, right? You look at goods and services in this country, and you take 3 big operators in the United States that deliver goods and services every single day to your neighborhoods. You're looking at UPS,
yep,
FedEx, Amazon, and DHL to some extent, right? They basically deliver, I think, 80% of the goods and services in your neighborhoods right now combined. I think you're going to see the same consolidation in the industry where you're going to see 4 or 5 major players that are going to be, having massive grow houses all over the country, footprints, like these logistic warehouses are popping up everywhere. And you're going to just see 4 or 5 major players. And then I think you'll see like a smaller version of retail buying off of these big distributors.
Yeah, like distribution centers have been talked about, like a
big, 1 million square foot warehouse.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then you have all the brands, from California, you have Michigan brands, you can really literally have like this mix where now everything's state to state. If it's
and you don't need to be in 70-degree weather to grow. To your point,
yeah.
I know there's places in Massachusetts, places in Minnesota, where they've got 50,000 square foot warehouses with state of the art lighting and to your point, the what is that called? The hydroponics.
Yep.
I don't know anything about it other than I know there's a potential to organize work.
Right.
Yeah.
But you don't need to be in a southern hot state to do this.
Right. I mean, look, with Colorado year round. I mean, they were famous for growing seasonal cannabis, but it became year round because they really had a good grasp on it. They deliver a great product. It's almost like embedded in their culture, and it's multi-generational also. So like, I go out there and I talk to people like, oh, this is my grandfather's heirloom strain, and now
what are all these products like?
Same as wine.
So
it's like wine.
You can walk in there, right? You can walk into a retail store. I should actually go walk in one just to see for my own
the immersion
education.
would be good.
I've been
just
in
to
thousands
see
of
what
them.
it is. But I mean, from what I'm told, they have all kinds of products, and like Kentucky bluegrass, and I'm just making that one up, I guess, right?
Yeah, sure. Like
what are the differences, and how do you know? It's like, hey, I want to order a regular fucking Coke.
That's
right?
what the bud tender should be for.
Try a Coke Zero.
That's where
try the
that's
Diet
where a
Coke.
well-trained Teamster bud tender that has education could steer you down the right path. Where we walk into facilities, B&J, and we always say, well, what's good? What that mean? We have a technique of how we handle these workers. We talk to them, and half of them say, is it
because they're high?
No, I don't think so. I think that it's really a lack of education. They think it's, this is going to be really cool, but it's like the working in a record store back in the day. This is going to be a really cool job. It's fun, and then they get there and they realize, like, you have medical patients. You have recreational patients.
You have combat veterans that are
a
coming
big deal.
in there. And I mean, I have a friend of mine that worked when it first was legalized in Massachusetts. He was head of security for them. And I remember I mentioned it earlier in the podcast. I'm like, isn't it kind of contradicting? Like, it'd be like me working for 35 years, advocating for working people, 100% union, true blue to the union movement, going to work for a union busting law firm.
Right.
Like, I couldn't do it, right? But
Right.
I guess it's a different perspective. So when I asked him, I'm like, you fought your whole career on in narcotics. He's like, yeah, but you know what? I got a different perspective. He said, I thought when I went to work there, we were going to see like scraggly druggies on the corner, coming in to buy weed and edibles and everything. He goes, you're looking at the majority of the people, and this was about 4 or 5 years ago, majority of people coming in here are combat veterans out of Afghanistan or maybe Iraq that don't want to go to the VA and get put on, OxyContin or any of those
Or
opioids,
just
right?
benzos or whatever
Right.
for like.
So, you look at it from that perspective. And then there's a whole nother argument as far as, forget the marijuana. And I just had a great guy, Navy SEAL, Marcus Capone, SEAL Team 6, who is a big advocate for ibogaine down in Mexico, right? Yeah. So it's like you have all these potential treatments, but the one common denominator is to stay away from the opioids.
I met a veteran yesterday who's been 2 ibogaine treatments, Navy SEAL, that was at the event yesterday with his service dog. Quite a gentleman. I mean, just great to talk to. And I said, you're making big noise, rattling the cages with this ibogaine, huh? He goes, that's why I'm here. He goes, people need to understand that this helps people. And, MDMA and all these different things, like all these different pathways that people have been taking with, psychedelics and the research. They're saying it's really, really helping almost like reset people. And I'm like, we're losing 17, the latest this week, 17 veterans a day to suicide. I mean, that's too much.
Yeah, so
zero is too much.
Yeah,
you know what
I mean, look, it's crazy. I one time read a story about a combat veteran. I think he was a Marine, and he made like 37 calls to a VA center saying, I'm really struggling with my mental health. The PTSD is really consuming me. He was basically living in his mother's basement. And I think it might have been 37 or 36 calls he made 37 days in a row to get help.
Yeah.
And then he never made a 38th because he hung himself in his parents' basement. And he was actually, the problem was that he was calling the VA to tell him, I can't take these opioids anymore because I'm struggling with them. I'm really struggling with them.
Yeah, he hooked, turned him into a junkie.
And he wouldn't leave his house.
Right.
But he was calling for that help, So there's a lot of debate on the medical portion of
They say cannabis can
cannabis.
really help pull people away from the opioids. I mean, it's a different type of a vibe, but it's a clear vibe. You know what I mean? Like, I could do anything stoned. I mean, I literally, it's for me, it's like functional type of thing. some people get baked or something. They're stoned. They're useless. Couch potato, useless.
But we want to be clear. You don't do it during working hours.
Absolutely.
Actually, we don't. We really don't, because we're really out there talking and spread the good message. We want to be clear-headed. We want to be like on focus. It's there's a time and a place. It's like, would you go to work drunk?
You can't.
I mean, why would you? You'd be useless. It's like.
I want to touch on a couple of points that you brought up that are real important about that veteran at home. And there is a conflict right now between the cannabis industry and the hemp industry, right? And
so what is the distinction?
Well, one's what they do. They had a 2018 farm bill that they call a loophole, but it was put into law. So it is a loophole that where they synthetically derive hemp and they turn it into an intoxicating product. Now, the conflict there between cannabis and hemp is cannabis has such a high regulatory and tax structure and licensing structure where
which drives the cost up.
Which drives the cost up for the operator themselves as well. And then you have the hemp company, the hemp products that come on and they sell them everywhere. But about your point with the veteran, in order to get cannabis, you need to show your ID at the door. You need to show your ID at your point of sale, and you're on the camera full time. It's checkpoints, like you're almost getting processed. A lot of these guys don't want to go through that. They just want to go into their store and buy what's working for them, whether it's a 10 milligram gummy or whatever it is. And because they have wounds seen and unseen. They don't always want to be in that process.
Well, the unseen wounds are probably the most damaging.
100%.
Absolutely.
So Congress,
that's the mental health portion.
Congress last week, and there's a bunch of conflicting arguments, but Congress last week basically abolished the hemp industry. And you're talking a couple 100,000 jobs in the hemp specific space and removing access to those products.
So what are hemp products?
Well, it's the same. It runs in line with the same products as cannabis. They're just derived and processed and manufactured differently. And some of them are synthetic, right? Cannabis should and always just be whole plant product, right?
Right. So the hemp is still consited a Schedule 1, right?
No, it's not really scheduled. Not. Well, and not only
it's
that,
a building material.
Not only that, Shawn, they've just enacted this new agricultural.
So what
bill.
are some examples of hemp? I mean, I've seen hemp shampoo.
Yeah.
Hemp body lotion.
No, it's the same
What
thing.
is
It's gummies, it's tinctures, it's chocolates. They just process the intoxicant differently to bypass the law.
Ford built a car completely out of hemp. I mean, look,
I saw that on Cheech and Chong. Didn't they
yeah.
do that
but
in, like Up in Smoke?
They did. That was for the movie, but in real life, Henry Ford, they built a hemp car.
It's a very versatile product.
Versatile product. This hempcrete is going to really blow up in the next few years if this.
So getting back to what you were saying,
this is specifically to the intoxicating value or the therapeutic value,
because the construction materials aren't on that list. The cellulose that they could use to make plastics and those types of things in for clothing, sails, rope, all these different things that are being, hemp's coming back into manufacturing with. Those things are not on the restricted. It's the intoxicating stuff.
Well, you're not going to be lighting up a fucking piece of building product, are you?
No, you couldn't.
No.
At that point,
I mean, sure, someone will try it.
I bet
Probably one of our friends.
Somewhere.
Yeah. Probably one of our friends.
Yeah. So on the intoxicating hemp side, when Congress makes that action, it removes these products from the line. It removes the intoxicating products. And there is a major problem there because they're bringing foreign hemp from China and other countries where they're buying it cheap and processing and then feeding our country garbage, right? Mm-hmm. But there are some very good hemp operators too that have a best-in-class product. And the action from Congress, it removes the intoxicant, but it does something very detrimental to some of the children in our country. And they need to look at it a lot closer. There's a lot of epilepsy and a lot of ailments that are cured with pure CBD. Okay, and it's not intoxicating.
By the way, all this stuff's DOT disqualifying.
It is actually right now. Not CBD. because it's not
CBD is.
Is it really?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
I think it is.
It's
I don't know.
We should be fighting for that.
It's disqualifying, but I think people have tested positive.
Correct.
That use it, which it may not be disqualifying, but it gives you a positive test.
You're gonna pop it. You're gonna pop dirty, right? So that we should address, because I mean, you're driving a truck for 20 years, your back's blown out, you got tinnitus in your ear. There's no reason you shouldn't be able to take a plant-based therapeutic to solve that, right? Whatever you choose for the therapy side. The real issue is that you stop production research of these futures drugs that are helping children. Paige, I think it's Paige Feige and Charlotte's Web. This girl had massive seizures, like where they're debilitating to where she falls banging her head on the ground, and they give her 1 gram of syringe and it's gone. Now, there's absolutely no common sense position to remove that.
But there must be a black market ready to take over.
That's Shawn, I flagged that yesterday with some of these guys because
groups and organizations.
when they killed the hemp in Congress, cannabis went all went crazy. Right? Yeah,
they just got rid of their competition.
They did, but I'm not a prohibitionist. I want the freedomization of cannabis. I don't even want the legalization.
You're an exhibitionist.
Yeah, I'm an exhibitionist. Right? So, but they went crazy, and it's like it made no sense to me. It's like, hold on a second, you're fighting to be rescheduled. These guys went back into prohibition, and you're cheering. It's the same plant. It makes zero sense. It's because they're not unified in their message. They don't have us. I'll tell you, not just pumping up our role, not us. I mean, the organization's role. We bring critical structure to these people that with the one element that they're missing, unified voice and vision.
Well, they don't have the ability. Most companies, most corporations, most industries don't have the ability politically to have the conversations that we have in many different venues, many different industries that we represent. Matter of fact, I was at a meeting yesterday over an infrastructure product that puts thousands of people to work, and they do everything 100% union. This company, and clearly they want us to invest our pension monies in the infrastructure product, which we do with a lot of our funds. But the one thing they said that the value that we bring as an organization is the ability to politically have our voices heard in Washington, D.C., where it's most critical. And it's not just in Congress or the Senate, but it might be in individual states where you have a senator or congressperson that might be opposing something, but not realizing the value it brings to industries within his or her home states. So that's where the value of what our organization is able to do. And we're a big voice. I mean, we're a big voice. We're a big advocate for a lot of different things in this country, a lot of different issues that affect working people. And I think this is one that, I know for a fact we've taken the lead on it. How much does politics play in the success of this industry? How much does politics play in the ability to have a sustainable industry that's going to provide opportunities and growth, but more importantly, careers for these folks that are working in the cannabis industry?
Currently, all of it. I mean, they're slow walking. I mean, when you initiated that plan, I think we were under the impression that Joe Biden was going to reschedule, and we would be basically.
Well, we were told that was going to happen.
Yeah, and what we're going to do is we're going to stabilize and support the industry and grow it.
Well, there were two initiatives, if you remember.
Yes, sir.
When we first launched this in 2022, there were two initiatives politically. It was going to be to legalize, change the safe banking laws, which was supposed to happen, I believe, under the Biden administration, and two, federally legalize cannabis. Now, when we say federally legalized cannabis, was that declassifying it or just reclassifying?
We should take anything that we could get if it's Schedule 3, but if it was a magic wand, I would deschedule fully. I would same as alcohol and tobacco. I'd take it right off the table.
But if you make it a Schedule 3, that gives you the ability to skirt some of these regulations that are imposed on us right now as far as banking.
It removes the 280E.
Which means that if some mom and pop is failing out there and they need a lifeline, meaning, hey, I need an investor that's going to help me turn this around, but not basically rape and pillage me out of my business. You'll have the ability to file the bankruptcy, get restructured, maintain that entrepreneurial endeavor that you took on and maybe be successful
and operate like a normal business. COGS is important, right off your cost of goods sold. I mean, they can't do that. I mean, they're bought. And it honestly, it creates conflict for us because we're going there and saying, hey, we want a 23% increase. We want annuity and pension. We want these guys to be stabilized. And they're like, Jay, we're at a 70% tax rate. We can't. Well,
that's why you've seen a lot of these consolidations,
and it's not going to stop.
People can't sustain it. That's why I am convinced there's going to be 4 or 5 major operators in this country. And I don't know, do you feel that?
I mean, we see it developing already, and we see it being like almost like big beer brands. And I'm working with companies out in Denver that are saying like, Coors is probably going to buy us anyway. And I'm like, if it was a bad thing, or is that a good thing? Like,
well, I would rather have Budweiser.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, Augustus Busch was, taking a look into the markets in Massachusetts for a company that was for sale.
We do have people that work at Coors, but it's a battle with these people
with
all
Coors.
the time.
Yeah. The number one mission, I think, for our alignment and how we can actually structure this industry and stabilize this industry is fighting for reform. Is not in number one. And I think uniting the key players. When you say there's going to be 5 or 6 players, absolutely, I think you're correct. If that consolidation keeps happening, which I agree with you, I think it will. I don't think that's the healthiest motion forward.
Well, think about this solution of the problem. And I put this forward because, you try and have a strategy. The one thing that I want to do is always not be reactionary, be proactive, and try and, just watch what's going on and figure out where this thing is going to go. And in a perfect world, it's legalized federally. Mm-hmm. Safe banking laws are changed, right? Which I look at it, all right, at that point in time, you're going to see more and more consolidations, acquisitions. Now think about what we did in Las Vegas. Think about what we do in infrastructure, right? Think about what pension funds have done. We utilize pension funds, and, we all understand dynamic asset allocation, and you have to be diversified so that your members get the best bang for their buck and that you provide the best benefit. And we have to make those investments because pension funds don't survive just on contributions alone. But my goal and my dream, and we've partnered up, and I won't say what the company is, but private equity is going to have a huge push on this. Private equity is going to be making a lot of these acquisitions. And my goal and objective is to position the Teamsters Union to fund a lot of these acquisitions, try and raise $1 billion in capital, use 30% of that $1 billion to make and finance a lot of these cannabis acquisitions so that we can control the narrative and the direction that this industry is going to go for the betterment of workers. Because if you look at you look at an Amazon of the world, right? They're basically one of the biggest monopolies, scumbag, white-collar crime syndicates in the world. You look at their model, right? Mm-hmm. And you look who suffers the most when they control the whole industry.
That's right.
It's the workers. It's the distressed community. It's the communities where they focus on distress. If we don't get involved and be part of these deals and finance a lot of these deals and control the narrative, you're going to see a race to the bottom in these industries. Yep. And the people that are going to get affected the most are going to be the workers in these industries.
100% correct. 100% correct. I'm not sure. I'll tell you, if they rescheduled like they were planned and we executed the way you set forth that strategic mission, I think the industry would be thriving right now.
Well, it's funny. Like you bring this plan, and we've got many pension funds all around the country, right? And we had a big meeting with some of the biggest funds in the Teamster world, and I'm saying this is a great idea. People are gonna jump on this. It's gonna be phenomenal, right? And we had our own peers in a lot of these pension funds. They go back. You have multi-employer funds, so you have union trustees, you have employer trustees. And, my goal is to utilize these acquisitions, get neutrality, organize these members, negotiate a collective bargaining agreement, negotiate pensions where you're getting contributions on behalf of the people working in these industries. You are, making money off of these profitable cannabis companies on behalf of your members to sustain such a great pension. And I just love the fact that how many fucking people just get so morally righteous and say, we can't invest in cannabis. Yet those same fucking people,
they already are. Somewhere probably.
No, but these same people will be, they get to a table, and I'm not saying my side, the employers push back, and some of the fund administrators, well, morally, that's we can't do that. Oh, okay, but you're heavily invested in a private equity fund that is 40% Philip Morris.
In slaughtering communities.
Yeah, it's like, I just love when people get morally righteous. And I'm like,
Stigma.
This is a great opportunity, but I can't believe how many people push back. And I'm like, all right, no problem. You don't want to be involved in it? Then you know what? We're going to get the funds that want to be involved in it. And when we organize and we negotiate people into pensions, we're not putting them in your pension fund. We're going to put them over here. We're going to put them over here. We're going to make sure. And then you're going to be pissing and moaning saying, why are we not getting those members in our funds?
Yeah. In the end, that action drives the entire country's stability. It's not just a one-off for those top 5.
Right.
It actually fuels the industry so we don't have monopolizing prospects. You actually have a diverse commerce network that's driving your communities, that's uplifting those communities, right? I'll tell you just real quick, and everybody says, why are you're so pro of this organization? I say, because it saved my life. Yeah, I was lost. I was hustling weed and didn't go anywhere. I was done. And in 2001, when I came home, I get into my uncles and everybody say, hey, get in the union, just get straight. And I'm like, all right, I'll go give it a shot. I fell in love with it. It was like a family. It was a fraternal. You
fell in love with weed or the union?
No, I always loved the weed. I fell in love with the organization and I guess you'd say like the elder statesmen that committed their life to the collective agreement.
You see the return on the investment.
Yeah, they didn't break
a lot of those
rules.
guys. You're 2001. You go to work, you're working under a collective bargaining agreement, right? You were able to buy a home, support your family. You're living the American dream.
Saved my life.
Yeah, you're living the American dream.
You just keep pumping this? Like, we can't do it. I'm like, listen, you don't understand. It's not just about your balance sheet. It's about full communities, kids that are no shots. Not everybody's going to be a doctor and a lawyer.
Right.
You know what I mean? You have to look at this as it's the American way. You can't just chop people out due to your return. Right. And the union gave me like you said, the opportunity where I come home. I have an incredible wife, right? Been with me 30 years. Saint. Absolute saint. Both of us attracted.
Does she have glaucoma?
Yeah, she has glaucoma.
Clearly.
One eye goes a little bit loose when she goes crazy. That's when I know that's when I know she does. No, she don't. That's what she does actually. That's when I know to shut it down. When the Irish eye goes, I go, okay, I fall back. But when I got home with my journeyman paycheck and I was still living that wild life.
You got better looking?
I did. I got thin. I got real thin.
Looking? You brought the check home?
Abs. Yeah, I did. But I got over and I'm like, hun, like, it's time to start a family. Like, look at this paycheck. All I got to do is get up at 4:30 and outwork everybody till 3:30. I'm fucking in.
Yeah.
How are you gonna stopping me? And it changed my life. 10 years after, when I start living that union life and the elders leave, I become the elder and the new blood comes in and starts breaking the rules. And I go, oh, what the fuck you doing? These guys fought for that.
Well, there's another whole point to that is, we were brought up, especially where we grew up. Even if your parents weren't in the union, you knew people that were in it. You knew there were rules. You knew there were moral obligations in the code. Today, we get this new generation of workers, and no fault of their own.
That's right.
They're coming in here, and I tell the story all the time. When I went to work at Shawn and Ahern, like I knew to go see your steward. I knew to go, announce who you were, where you were from, and if you need me for anything, I'm available.
Right?
Whatever that means.
Right.
And I remember like my first day at Shawn, walking into Shawn and Ahern. They were cold, big ass men, like hard. Some of them were hard drinkers, all of them hard workers.
Yep.
And very just cold to you till they got to know you because they looked at you coming into their industry, young and in shape. Yeah. You're going to try and take their job.
Right.
Young blood.
And you knew that you had to follow
That's right.
their program. Meaning,
That's right.
like, don't be running. I remember I jumped off a track. I was delivering a bunch of crane pots, and I jumped off a flatbed trailer. And this old timer says, jump back on that fucking trailer the way you just jumped off it. I go, what? He goes, jump back up on that trailer the way you did. I go, I can't jump up on that trailer. He goes, then you shouldn't be fucking jumping off it. Use a ladder.
Right.
Like, these are just little things, right?
Right. Trying to keep you safe.
Trying to keep you safe and straight. And I remember, like, introducing myself the first day to the steward. And you know my buddy Kevin Kelleher. We started the same day. Kevin he's 10 years old I am, but he was jacked. He was like 30 years old or 29, whatever. And I was like, I think I was 20, whatever, and 19 or 20, whatever. And I was in great shape, and we're eyeballing each other. I thought he was there for like 10 years. He thought I was there, and he was staring at each other like, oh, here we go. I'm either going to be best friends with this kid or we're going to fight every single day. Yeah. And I remember going to the steward. Hey,
well, you fight and then become best friends.
Yeah, I go, hey, I'm Shawn O'Brien. I'm from the Union Hall. They sent me down, whatever. And I said, what do you need me to do? I go, shut the fuck up, stand in the corner and do what you're told. And being a big, strong, tough kid, you know what I did?
Yeah.
I fucking stood in the corner and didn't open my mouth till I was spoke. He basically said, speak when spoken to. Imagine you doing that to a kid right now coming into the cannabis industry. I tell people this all the time. Two things are going to happen, right? If you talk to someone coming in the workplace and you say to them, shut the fuck up, speak when spoken to, two things are happening. You're going to human resources.
That's right.
And that poor person's in therapy for 10 years. 10 years of their life. But no, you were brought up a different way. And I think we have this opportunity.
Safe spaces.
Through education, safe spaces with being able to leave at 3:30 in the afternoon. Not have to deal with these lunatics. But, you know, we get this opportunity to cultivate this next generation in a new industry.
And instill that same type of pride in their work.
Right.
You know, the one thing the old timer said to me when I first showed up, he said, hey, you only have one T-shirt. I go, yeah. Why? He goes, 2 T-shirt job. I go, 2 T-shirt job. He says, yeah, because if your T-shirt's not soaking wet by 11 o'clock, you're not on my fucking team, right? It was like, oh, okay. And he's like, and you have a 30-minute lunch, not a 29-minute and not a 31-minute, and you respect that contract. That guy fought for it. That guy fought for it. She fought for it. You don't just get to break the rules. It's time to get to work. And that, when you're young, that instilled something that
think about if we don't
put
rules in this industry the way it's going right now, and it's kind of,
it won't be an industry.
It's running roughshod right now.
It is.
They need the unions. They need us to negotiate checks and balances for both sides. You know, realistically, that's the way it's going to be a success. Let's shift gears for a minute. You know, the one thing that we are rock solid focused on in any and all of our industries is the effect of technology and AI is going to have in many of these industries that we represent. Matter of fact, I was in New York City yesterday, and I got to pull this up if I can find it, where I ended up looking up at a sign, and it said...
They sent it to me.
It said...
I saw it.
It's
crazy.
I got it right here somewhere. Let me just check here. Right? It says...
I saw this.
And I got to send this. We'll pull it up on the screen when we go to edit. But it says, stop hiring humans.
Yep.
AI employees are here. Right? So you think about, you know, you're a bricklayer by trade.
Marble Mason.
Sorry, here we go.
Interior. I was fancy.
It's like calling
It's
like calling a pipe fitter a plumber. Here we go.
Banks and lobbies.
Right?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So
baptismals in churches.
Yeah, here we go. But, you know, you think about, you know, you're a
bricklayer.
concrete engineer. Marble engineer.
Yeah.
Grout. You're a grouter.
Artisan.
No, I was not.
No, you weren't a grouter, right? But, you know, you can't replace that job with AI.
No, you can't.
AI can't swing a hammer. AI can't plumb a house. AI can't wire a house, right?
And AI will not trim A-class union-grown, sun-grown cannabis either.
But
Humans
will
trim it.
AI replace any jobs in the cannabis industry?
Well, they have kiosks that you can order on, so the bud tender could be obsolete. But I'll tell you the failure of that. You don't get the personal interaction. The person that's behind the counter doesn't drive your brand correctly, and it feels very. I don't want to go back. I want interaction.
But
you know,
I'll give you a story. I went in a Stop and Shop late one night to grab something. I get off a plane and figure out what I had to grab something, probably deodorant or something, right, for the next day. And I grab a bunch of stuff. And I go into, there was one cashier, she was probably 65, 70 years old. And she's the only one at the cashier, like 9 o'clock at night. Store's empty. And I go in there and I said, I put my stuff in the thing. She goes, self-checkout's over there. I said, listen, all due respect, ma'am, if I go to self-checkout, you could lose your job. I don't give a shit. I don't like this fucking job anyways. And I'm like, no, listen. I said, you're missing the point. I said, the more people you tell to go there, they're not going to need you. You're not going to get paid. You're not going to get your benefits. She's like, well, I don't give a shit. I don't like this job anyways, right? My point to all this is you can say all you want is people want the personal experience. You know, people want convenience.
They do.
They want to go.
They want it now.
Right. And which is scary to me because, you know, you go to someone. I want to have a conversation with someone.
Yeah.
Same.
I want, when I'm checking out of somewhere, you know, I want to be able to have a conversation because I might have a question on something I'm buying. I might not want to. I don't go to self-checkouts. I really don't.
I don't either.
And it's like, you know, how can AI and technology affect these industries? I mean, you're talking about warehousing, right? You don't think they can automate these warehouses?
They can.
They can. We've seen it.
So that's why it's important to organize in this industry because AI is a problem. They might not be able to trim a bud plant, but they might be able to palletize and store cannabis with robots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
mean,
think
the kiosk. You made a great point. Like that kiosk interaction. It's horrible. It's so much of this and this and this, and there's so many categories. So many categories.
About the audience they're playing to, though.
Yeah.
Those are the folks that are used to on their phones hitting buttons
Doing
and everything
that,
else, right?
Yeah,
Me,
we're older.
I get confused. Like I'm not that old, but
Right.
I get confused. I want to hand my cash on my credit card to a cashier, so I don't have to think. I'm neck down in there.
We have a friend in the industry that did the first licensed self pickup in Colorado, and I said, "How was that?" Everywhere where you go, double ID. He says, "No, they're in the system, and they just need to show their ID to gain access to their locker."
Yeah, it's like when during COVID, when we'd order Drizzly.
Yeah. Right.
Well,
Right.
remember COVID, the only thing that stayed open and the only thing they kept open were liquor stores.
So under the
They
contracts,
kept open UPS.
under the contracts that we have, I think we've got 24 of them. I know that we've given directives as far as negotiating the best benefits, but have we thought about AI and the effect of technology?
I think about AI all the time because I've always been a futurist. I think there's other industries that are in a higher danger. I think the narrative around AI removing some entry level projects and entry level jobs or middle jobs, I think that's real. But I think there's a bigger threat, and I don't think it's a threat just to the labor. I think it's a threat to management, right? Like,
Well, listen, it's a great point because, you know, I met with someone that's one of the architects of AI. I mean, this guy and he sought us out. And I couldn't have been, we can't be at opposite ends of the spectrum as far as, you know, our world and their world. But he did explain something to me and it made a lot of sense. And, you know, I've been learning a lot more about AI over the last 2 or 3 years, especially now when you see signs like that. Why are you bothering hiring humans? AI's here, right?
Yeah.
Take a pyramid, right? Put it in thirds. The top 30 is C-suite, CEOs, and your shareholders or stockholders, Wall Street. Your middle tier are, you know, your management, your analysts, your accountants, your lawyers,
executive assistants,
executives, all this stuff, right? And then, you know, the other tier is the blue collar workers that can't be reduced by AI, right? These industries can't. It was explained to me, you're gonna wipe that whole tier of middle management out. It's gonna be replaced by AI, and that is going to be a significant savings to corporations and companies. And where do you want to see that money go? Do you want to see it go to the workers who deserve it? Or do you want to see it continue to go to, you know, huge
just the top of the pyramid,
wage disparity? And
it's very good.
You know, Wall Street, people that have never done the job. So, you know, that's an interesting focus. But, you know, getting back to the AI and the technology aspect of it, I mean, I would assume there's recipes, right, for all this cannabis.
Yeah,
stuff, right? So what's stopping AI from, you know,
So there's already automated systems for the pre-rolls that are for sale. It's about a $275,000 unit, so it's not that big.
Yeah, they
of an
roll the
investment.
cigarettes.
It's a boom, boom, boom.
Well, they
boom.
do that. They do that in the cigarette industry.
Yeah,
right?
same thing. They've just turned it into, filler, boom, bing, down the ramp, and it's, into a box. And it's the same thing with edibles. I mean, the candy manufacturing systems, boom. You still have to have someone to operate the system.
Sure, no doubt.
Once they set that
well, not
system.
only operate it, you got to program it, operate it, maintain it,
Right.
and build it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Tech schools.
Right. No, but I mean, these are the
You know,
things we've got to be
that's-
thinking about.
Yeah. So what's funny is I deal with some MSO leadership throughout the country, and I've fostered some really good relationships. And one in New York, a leader of this space, actually sent me that same picture. It's on the side of a building, right?
Yeah, right in Times Square.
It's right in Times
It's not
Square.
the only one. There's a bunch of them, different AI
And
companies.
he writes, Jay, what do you say about this? And I said, the headline's wrong. It should say AI replaces your politicians, right? I know nobody wants to hear that, but they're making real decisions on behalf of the country, and the whole country's not aligned, right? There's a lot of different avenues.
There was an alignment with AI as far as there was a push in most recent legislation where Ted Cruz introduced legislation that would not allow states to regulate AI for 10 years, right? It'd be federally. And it was voted 99-1 opposition. And he voted in that 99 to not regulate it federally, give the states the ability to regulate it state by state.
That's interesting. That's
right. But think about it. When you're talking about AI, and we'll wrap this up real quick. When you're talking about AI in any industry, unfortunately, there's such people have such an appetite for convenience, right? In the world, they want to hit send and be instantly gratified and or supplied with something, right? And the problem is when you look at this technology, you look at things like autonomous commercial vehicles, anything that replaces jobs. Big tech is funding a lot of these political campaigns, not only Republicans, but also Democrats.
Yeah.
And that's a corruptible process because here's what happens. Like the governor in Colorado, there was bipartisan support and legislation that was going to require human operators of autonomous commercial vehicles, right? And bipartisan support. You had public safety as an issue. You had infrastructure vulnerability as a result of these trucks being heavier and barreling up and down the road. And so when that hit his desk, there was rumors he was going to veto it. I called him up and I said, listen, you can't veto this legislation. And I said, we've always supported you. He's like, well, I've always won with the Teamsters and, I can't be with you in this one. And I'm like, this is the one.
Right.
Like, where are you going to take? I think there was like 250,000 commercial drivers in the state of Colorado. I might have that number wrong. But it's a significant amount of people that have commercial driver's license. And I said, where are you going to put all these people? And his answer to me, yeah, don't worry about it. It's not coming for the next 10 years. I go, it's going to be here in 10 minutes.
Right.
Right. So it's like, this is the stuff we got to be thinking about. And this is the stuff I think that could be great.
I was working with Dean when that. I was working with Dean when that happened, and you put your chest out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you had to step up at that point.
Well, you have to. I mean, it's all about protecting jobs and everything else. So, look, I appreciate you guys coming on the show today. This has been an education, but more importantly, I think it's a great opportunity to organize and provide structure and a future for these cannabis workers. Now, if you've watched the podcast, you know that I like to ask a final question, and it's not, what your sign is or anything else like that. But, if you could have lunch with anybody in the world, not someone deceased, who would that person be? Tough question, isn't it?
It is a tough question because you go right to family all the time.
Yeah, you want to go like my dad. I'd
And
like to have another conversation with him or some other folks. But, when you think about someone in this world who you'd like to have a conversation with.
Oh, man. Someone in this world I would like to have a conversation with. I would probably do something more fun, like a musician or something. So who would I pick? I don't know. I would maybe say like Robert Plant from Led Zeppelin or something like that.
Is he still alive?
He's still alive.
He's probably an avid weed smoker too, right?
I hope so. I'd love to smoke a joint with him.
I'll tell you, I'm not sure about this one. I don't really care to talk to anybody unless they're with us.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I have the opportunity to speak to a lot of different people.
Yeah.
A lot of different arenas, whether it's politicians like the President of the United States or actors, whoever. But I'll tell you, the one guy I would love to have lunch with, and I've been consistent, and you guys would probably like to have lunch with him too because he'd probably light up with you, is Snoop Dogg.
Yeah.
That guy's cool as shit.
I've actually, because of George Parra, I've actually smoked some of Snoop Dogg's weed, and I wasn't that impressed. I was like,
No, but just to have a conversation. Think about this guy, right? Comes in the rap scene, supposed to be a gangster.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Been with his wife for like 35 years. Great father, coached all his kids' sports.
Yeah.
He's best friends with Martha Stewart. I mean,
There's something there, right?
and we're always talking about like collaborating and to effectuate change. Here's a guy that's, people have one opinion of him. He's a great husband, great father. He's friends with Martha Stewart. I've got his Snoop Dogg cookbook in my office. It's phenomenal. Yeah. It's like
Snoop made a cookbook?
Oh yeah, it's phenomenal. It's like Fruit Loops and shit. Yeah, it's great. But that's who I would love to have lunch with.
Calvin Brodus, that'd be a good one.
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, he's a kind of iconic at this point
Definitely
in this country.
Definitely is. That whole era.
Yeah.
I mean, just think about what we grew up with. But listen, I want to thank you all for coming on Better Bad Ideas, and let's continue to organize in the cannabis industry. Let's make those workers in the cannabis industry a career that they can actually depend upon moving forward.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much for having us.
Appreciate it.